Alright guys, so I know I just showed you all those laptop batteries recently, and I have been sitting on those forever doing nothing with them, and I had a slightly different approach with them before. If they had 0 volts, I just didn't do anything with them. So I got curious after dealing with all these issues with our houseboat batteries where people were killing them down to 0 volts, and I was able to charge them back up and they came back. I guess I just had a slightly different perspective and thought on taking a battery all the way down to 0 volts and leaving it there forever, just thinking that it would just die, because I've had lots of experience with lead acid, and that's the case. You let a lead acid battery sit flat for months or years, it's almost guaranteed not to hold any voltage in most circumstances. I've been surprised a couple times at some recovery on those. However, I literally just started doing this yesterday. That one battery pack that I showed you that I had started tearing apart, that I never finished tearing apart. Well, I finished tearing it apart, and I decided, you know what, I'm curious to see what happens if I do this. So let me show you what I was doing. Alright guys, so forgive the lighting. It's, I mean, still in the process of getting everything set up. But you might remember seeing I had 6 of these in that laptop battery that I showed you, where it was the black case around them and it just had these cells in it. There's 2. There's this one. Like I said, I literally just spent a couple minutes on it to play with them, and I thought that this one might just be dead, because when I initially started playing with them, this was the one that gave me the worst results right off the bat. But you can see there the SF US 1865 GRs, subgroup G5 there. That's a Sony cell. And I think it's the Sony cells, they call them heaters. So these are there's 3 here that we're all looking pretty good overall voltage wise. This one I thought was dead, and it seems like it might be coming back to life. And then these 2 I think were my lowest voltage. But now, like I said, I was just playing around with it in my spare time. I didn't set any set process, but I know that if I heard somewhere, I don't actually know. I heard somewhere that when a battery is killed all the way down flat, that it's better to bring it back slow than it is to try to force a bunch of power into it. And I know with the heater cells, Jehu talks about them, if you're putting too much power into them, they get hot and you can have a thermal runaway. So these I was super careful with, super slow. Let me see if I can figure out a way to do this single-handedly and hold the camera at the same time. I apologize again, just getting set up here. So now, I don't know if you saw it before I dropped it. Hold on. Okay, we're back. I promise I'll get better at this. So that's that cell right there, one of those 2 right there, and you can see it's holding at 3.57 volts. This has not been on the charger in almost 12 hours, and it's holding 3.57 volts. Now, I just wanted to show you that because these 2, this one, and I think I marked it, one of these 3 were all at 0.0 volts when I pulled them out of that battery pack. 2 of them, I'm not sure which 2, I don't remember. I might have marked them, I don't remember. I'll have to look. But 2 of them had 0.19 volts. So, I mean, they were all dead. They were all zeros. What I did, because the heater cells, you don't want them to heat up and have a thermal runaway and catch fire. That's the danger in these cells. You gotta kind of babysit them. So this battery charger right here is for 18650 cells. I had that one, I had this one. These 2 use a standard USB, like a phone charger. And then this one is my wall plug-in, which I like this one. It's nice and simple, but it doesn't give you a ton of information. Same thing with this one. It doesn't give you any information, just tells you if it's charging or charged or not charging. This one, however, let's see if I'll kick it on real quick and you can see what it shows you. Maybe. Okay, let's get some power on. There we go. Okay, so this one gives you a chart, or I guess a gauge, and it actually shows you the milliamp hours it's putting into the cell. So let's just grab the cell that we just checked. It's at 3.56 volts or so. So drop her in there, and you can see here the cell voltage, and then right here is the amperage that the charger is putting in. And I'll only do a 1/2 amp per cell, and then down at the bottom obviously we can see the milliamp hours put in. I don't really trust this to be super accurate or anything like that. That's why we have the iMax B6, is because that's the one I am going to use for all of my capacity testing, so I'm only using one device and it's as consistent as possible. But what I did was I took these flat cells that were at 0 volts and I used this charger here to, I would put them on the charger anywhere from 100 to 200 milliamp hours at a time. I'd take them off and then let them sit for a minute, well, actually I let them sit for a couple hours because I would do 2 at a time. So I'd do them and then I'd pull them, and once they reach that between 100 and 200 milliamp hours, I'd pull them off and leave them off, and then come back to them later, several hours later, check to see where the voltage had drifted. But how I got the battery charger to recognize that there was a battery there was I actually jumped it from another battery. So if you saw in a previous video of mine, I had one cell that was not looking very good. It was dented in on the bottom here. You probably can't really even see that in this, but I just took this and one of my 18650 cell holders, and I took the cell that had 0 volts, and I, again, we'll try this one-handed. I would put, the negative terminal here off of the charged cell that I had, and then I would take the positive and I would just touch these two together like that, and I would do that for anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds, and then I would let it sit for at least 20-30 seconds or so. A couple times I could feel these, because when I was doing it, it was actually like 30 degrees out here, so I could feel these wires actually getting a little bit warm, not like hot at all, just a little bit warm. So on a couple of my cells that I did that with, I probably held them for, I don't know, 10-20 seconds. I don't think I held any for 20. It was like 10 to 15 seconds, and on those, that's when I felt these getting warm. But what that did was that took this from 0 volts up to the initial 3 to 5 seconds. I mean, it would show a surface voltage of about 1.5 volt, but quickly drop down to sub 1 volt, so it was like 0.8 volts. And I did this a few times till I got these up to about 1.5 volts, 2 volts, and they would quickly drop back down below that, but it was enough that my battery charger here would recognize that there was a battery on it. And then I would hurry and throw it on there while it still had a surface charge, and I would charge it up to about that 100 milliamp hours. What I quickly noticed was even at 1/2 amp, which is not very much current, those battery cells started warming up. Like I said, it was like 30 degrees out here. And part of the reason why I decided to pull them at about 100 milliamp hours was because I went over just checking on them periodically every minute or so. And I saw that they were, well, I felt to the touch that they were warm. And at 1/2 amp, I was like, all right, that's kind of making me a little bit nervous, so let's see what happens here. So like I said, I pulled them, and then I did that to 2 more batteries where I jumped them together with that one cell, and then I put them on the charger, and then I again let them sit between 100 and 150 milliamps or so. I think one got up near 200, and then those ones were getting warm as well, so I did it again with the last two. Well, what I found when I came back a couple hours later was that they had found their resting voltage all above 1 volt. I think I had one that was just over, maybe it was just under, it was like 0.9 volts. And that was the one that I labeled with that D with a question mark because I didn't know if it was dead or not. And I think what happened is I just had that one on the charger the shortest amount of time. I went through and checked them all, and they were all between 1 and 2 volts. Actually, I think the one that was on there for almost 200 milliamp hours of charge was actually closer to 2 volts. So I decided to cycle them again. They had sat for several hours, and the second time through they did even better. And I think there was 2 above 3 volts, and then the other 3 were 2.2 to 2.6, and then the one was like 1.8. So I went through and did it a third time. What I noticed was the third time they were no longer getting hot or warm to the touch like they were before, and they were starting to hold voltage better. So I might be wrong. I'll end up doing some research on this eventually, but right now I just wanted to share with you my findings, my experience, and what I'm changing up as I'm changing it. I think what happens is initially putting some of that charge back into the cell, obviously there's a lot of resistance, there's a lot of heat, and it's in essence kind of like waking that cell back up. But after that charge sat there and was able to kind of cool, do whatever it needed to do, did its thing, and it got used to having some power in it again, when I did it again, it was no longer fighting this huge resistance. I have seen many things where people are talking about, cells that especially have sat for a long time, they'll discharge them, charge them 2 or 3, 4 cycles, and then all of a sudden they work better. I think Will Prowse has done several videos where he, buys grade B cells or something like that on Alibaba or AliExpress. After he says he cycled them a couple times, the capacity actually goes up. So that's part of what inspired me to try this. And so I'm going to take these crap cells, which are rated at 2200 milliamps new, and I think I'm going to cycle them, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'll capacity check them each time, see if they get better, see if they come back, and see if they're usable. Most of these laptop cells I expect to be somewhere in the ballpark of about 50% capacity, and that work. Most of the ones that work, I expect them to be around 50% capacity. And I know I'm going to get a lot that are above 50%. So if I can get more than 50% of their rated capacity, I'm going to be happy. I expected 0, and I literally paid nothing for them. I got them for free a long time ago, before a lot of the laws changed for recycling lithium cells and stuff like that. I had a friend who worked at a battery place, and he gave me pretty much everything they had for recycling. I don't know that that's something that you could even do now. I think the federal laws have changed where everything has to be accounted for, and I don't know. I might look into it again depending on how things go. But for now, I've got a stockpile. I've probably got, 35, 40 laptop battery cells to break down and go through. So wanted to share this with you and just show you what I was doing and what I found, and we'll see how everything goes. Now, just real quick before we go, you can see there's about 110 amp hours put into this cell that I put on here with you guys just a moment ago. And I have this piece of cardboard here because the sun's shining directly in here. And so I didn't want this cell to heat up from the sun. And the cell and the charger, everything here is essentially the exact same temperature, which at a 0.5 amp of current is exactly what I want. I don't want, at a 0.5 amp, I don't want to feel that thing warming up at all. But I was really excited. It seems to be really promising, so I wanted to share with you guys and let you know my findings, and I'll keep you guys updated. All right, that's it, guys. You guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next one.